So very excited to talk through the details of what was commonly known internally as Project J. It is now known as the Agriculture Technology Campus. And I want to start, I guess, a couple of years ago. Our department started gathering research on what we now commonly know as controlled environmental agriculture, and that is safely growing food indoors under very high technology methods using very sophisticated air conditioned handling units, very sophisticated lighting systems, so you can simulate the most ideal climate year-round wherever you are. So we started doing this research about 3 years ago, and we had a trade mission to the Netherlands, and I think the governor alluded to this in his speech a couple of days ago, but the Netherlands is kind of the ground zero for controlled environmental agriculture. They are about half the size of the state of South Carolina, but they are the second largest exporter of food in the entire world. So from a logistics perspective, we said, well, if Amsterdam can do it, we're not all that much bigger than Amsterdam, but we can certainly shoot for this. So we did a trade mission. We talked to their private sector growers. We talked to their university system to figure out what kind of synergies we would have with our land grant universities, Clemson and South Carolina State, to emulate some of these processes. So when we got back, we commissioned a very in-depth study on what this industry could be and how it would look and how it would operate in South Carolina. And once we got that study done about 2 years ago, we very aggressively started recruiting a number of companies to locate to South Carolina. One that we recruited and we were not successful at landed in Hendersonville, North Carolina. And the interesting thing is they said, well, we will never be able to go to sea level altitudes. We have to be higher than sea level. We have to be in the mountains because of humidity. And the interesting thing is, since then, 2 years ago, there have been vast changes in technology which have eliminated all those humidity issues. So that's why we were able to find this company and this unique joint venture and bring it essentially to a flat area of the state. So we started having conversations with a gentleman out of Rochester, New York, through a connection of a connection at Clemson University, who has a house at the Cliffs, strangely enough. We developed a relationship with this gentleman. He was linked into some of the companies that are now involved in this project. And long story short is we incubated that relationship. We gathered more details on what this industry is and what it looks like and what we want it to be, and started looking at specific locations for which this campus could go in South Carolina. And essentially what we did was we narrowed it down to two locations. And Hannah's not going to be surprised when I say one of them was a PD because I'm from Florence. But we looked at the two regions of the state that are really near and dear to the agriculture industry's heart. So we looked at the PD region and we looked at the Southern Carolina region. And I'll say that Danny Black and Kay Maxwell and his entire team rolled out the red carpet for us, rolled out the red carpet for the companies involved, and worked with Hampton County and worked with us to negotiate one of the strongest incentive packages we've ever seen in agriculture. So I will give them a very big pat on the back for that. But So we were having these conversations, um, and it's all generally about relationships. So after we had these, couple year-long conversations with Jim Kimball, who was in Rochester, he introduced us to a gentleman by the name of Zeb Portanova, who is a full-time resident of Aiken. He was a former CEO of Swiss Chronotex down in Barnwell, so he was very familiar with the area. So that's kind of when we started to narrow our focus to the Southern Carolina territory. So out of that relationship with Mr. Portanova came relationships with kind of the keys to making all this happen, because we were confident in being able to build the infrastructure to grow the produce and do so in a humidity-free environment. But the next question was, well, what do we do with the product when it's grown? Where are we going to sell it? Who's going to package it? Who's going to process it? Who's going to distribute it? So because of just all these conversations that had happened, we were connected to three companies that are part of this project that were key, one of which is Clearwater Farms, which is a leader in production of leafy greens. And when I say leafy greens, I mean specifically lettuce. So we started having conversations with them, and then we started having conversations with Ledestri Food and Drink, which is one of the nation's leading packagers of food and beverage products. They do lion's share of packaging for Constellation's brands products, which are Corona Light, Robert Mondavi, Svedka Vodka, Ithaca Hummus, Paul Newman's spaghetti sauce. So that initially led to a relationship that we built with Mastronardi and Company, which is the largest tomato grower in the United States. I think he grows close to 8,000 acres throughout the United States, primarily in California, mostly under glass. And when I say glass, I mean controlled environmental agriculture. So it was a spider web of networking and relationships that kind of led us to this point. Once we connected all these dots, we were able to say, and this is probably 10, 11 months ago, this started to gel, and we said, well, if we've got a leafy green grower and we've got a tomato grower, then we really could bring in Ledestri and make him part of the package, in that they are the direct producer or packager of Paul Newman spaghetti sauce. So there's a direct tie there. And so out of that conversation came the agreements that these three companies would locate within this agriculture technology center. And out of that came the agreement that 150,000 square foot distribution center would be built to essentially sort all these products. And what was really key to making all this happen was the proximity to Interstate 95. South Carolina, as y'all each know, South Carolina is very uniquely situated on the eastern seaboard. We're within a 24-hour drive of 70% of the United States population up and down the eastern coast. So from a distribution perspective, I-95 and this site being 4 miles from I-95 was perfect for these products to be going into the different retail outlets, i.e. grocery stores. So it was kind of a snowball, honestly, how all this happened. I am very proud to say that out of this announcement, which was $314 million and nearly 1,600 full-time jobs, and almost what will be another 1,000 part-time and seasonal positions, came the largest agricultural investment in the state's history. And it does not go unnoticed to us how significant this project is. This is, quite frankly, the largest thing that we have ever worked on. We're extremely excited. We were extremely excited to work with Senator Scott's office because of his knowledge and leadership on the opportunity zones. Because if you take a step back all the way to the beginning when all these conversations started happening, the one thing that they said that they had to have was they wanted to be in an opportunity zone. So without an opportunity zone being in existence, this project would not be in South Carolina. And I will say, it's always, from an economic development perspective, it's always a very fierce competition to get a company this sizable to land a project in a specific locality. And we had to be very aggressive. We and the State Department of Commerce had to be very aggressive because essentially the companies had whittled it down to South Carolina, North Carolina, and Texas. And so we were more aggressive than North Carolina. The companies eliminated North Carolina. And then we, through process of conversations and incentives negotiations, were able to beat out Texas, which is a huge feat in itself. So we're very excited. We think that this is a game changer. We have already, I can tell you, we have already had conversations start, like you saw BMW and how you saw Boeing develop supplier networks throughout those counties closest to the facilities, but also throughout the state. I can tell you that because of the announcement Wednesday, today is Friday, we have already had probably 5 or 6 supplier companies call us interested in co-locating also in Southern Carolina's business park. So from an economic development perspective, this is as good as it gets, in the sense of we've got the big splash, we've got the big announcement, but we're going to have a ripple effect on so many other opportunities and so many other jobs that are going to come to this area throughout the short period of a couple of years. From an impact perspective, I will say that what we had Parker Poe Consulting measure for us was, on an annual basis, there's going to be a roughly $551 million impact to Hampton County alone, which is huge. And then when you multiply that through the direct, indirect, and induced kind of ripple effects over 15 years, this project in itself, without any supplier announcements, is going to be roughly $7.5 billion just for the county. And so we are extremely excited to have been involved in this project. There's probably a million other things that I could have mentioned in the weeds. I wanted to kind of keep this at a higher level. But again, Southern Carolina, I know y'all, Beaufort County is a member of Southern Carolina Alliance. They did an absolute phenomenal job in making this happen, and it was a pleasure to work with them. So I guess from a 30,000 foot level, that's kind of the nitty gritty of what the project is, who it is, who the players are. We have an extreme amount of confidence in what this project will mean for not just Hampton County, and not just for the region, and not just for the state, but for what this will do for our industry as we try to identify the next generation of farmers and agribusiness leaders. So we're very excited from that perspective. So maybe with that, I'll stop yapping and happy to take any questions y'all may have about any of the particulars of this project.
Great. Well, I'll kick it off. First of all, Clint, thank you again. That's a really awesome project. Great use of an opportunity zone as well. Just a couple questions that I have, and maybe I missed it. Where is the exact location of the development?
So the location is the Southern Carolina Business Park, which is in the town of Early Branch, which is, if you're driving south on 95, exit 38, you hang a right, and it's about 4 miles down, located next to Le Creuset and Newpie.
Okay.
And the project is going to be, or the project has purchased 1,000 acres to build their footprint. I will say part of the conversations that I alluded to about the suppliers reaching out, we have an option on another 3,000 acres that is part of a longer term plan to develop some of that land. So I think we're extremely focused on what we identified this is phase one, but there already are conversations about phase two and phase three, and then those supplier networks. So we're very excited about building this chain.
That's great. That's great. And then one more question, I'll let others chime in, but 1,600 full-time jobs, which is fantastic. Help me understand, are those local, or are those associated suppliers, or just kind of a little bit of everything?
No, so those will be solely almost 100% local jobs. I think we would be kidding ourselves if we didn't say that some of those jobs are going to be filled from people from across the border in Georgia. But those are primarily unskilled labor positions. And I think what I've heard is that the average hourly wage is going to be close to $18.40 an hour, which is a hell of a hourly wage for that county, and is above the county average. And I'll say in that nearly 1,600 is going to be some of the skilled positions, some of the science positions that will go with what is a very scientific operation. And you will have some management positions in that as well. But that does not include any suppliers. That is just the growers, the managers, the processors, the packagers, and the distributors.
Wow, that's great. Other questions for Clint?
Clint, this is Bill Miles, and thank you for the update. That's terrific, and congratulations. Couple questions. One is I-95. Did the I-95 widening project come into play with this that might have helped speed things up with 95?
That's a great question. We have had many conversations about infrastructure, one of which is I-95. Widening has been a part of the conversation. I will tell you confidentially, the interchange at exit 3 has been part of the conversation. I don't know if I can really say much more than that, but I think from an infrastructure perspective, all of the conversations that are happening that are very positive are very helpful for this project and the hopeful expansion of this project before a full build out by year 2025.
Great, thank you. And the other question is, are any of the companies that you've partnered with in the Northeast, are any of those unionized or non-union companies?
So they will be non-union when they come to South Carolina. I think there probably are some of unionization up in Rochester and their facility in Illinois. But we have been very clear that South Carolina is a right to work state. And that's a huge selling point for us as we go out. So yes, this will be non-unionized labor.
Great. And the last question is did I hear at the press conference it's 2 years away, or did I dream that?
No, you're right. So the groundbreaking will happen early Q1 of 2021, and the 2022 date is literally the first tomato coming out of the drawer. And I will take a moment. I'm glad you asked that question, Bill, because when we talk about greenhouses, I think a lot of people have an idea or an image that these are plastic temporary hoop houses, but essentially what we're talking about is a completely glassed in high-tech warehouse. And let me give maybe some perspective of the cost associated to build 1 acre of glass and upfit it with the technologies of lighting and humidity control is almost $1.25 million per acre. And they're building 140 acres throughout this phase 1, and have plans to expand. The conversations that we've had with the companies is that within 5 to 10 years, they want to be in the upper hundreds or low thousands of acres under glass.
Well, that's terrific, and congratulations, and thanks for all your hard work on it.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Clint, I had a question. In the press conference, TCL was mentioned, Technical College of the Low Country, and of course that's a gem and a jewel in our crown here in Beaufort County. How do you anticipate TCL being used in other opportunities for workforce development? And honestly, I'm just so excited. I'm so thrilled that this went into that particular area. Now that you've spent some time there, and what it will do for, Bamberg, Barnwell, Denmark, what I call the side street of I-95. But it's just set, those towns are blighted, and they've just needed this kind of economic development that could go along that corridor as well. But I did want to ask the TCL connection.
Sure. Yeah. So to your point, yeah, this will be a shot in the arm. Part of the conversation that we've had with these companies, the ag technology campus is what we just commonly call it. Workforce training is a huge deal, and we have been very engaged with Ready SC. We've been involved with Technical College of the Low Country, and essentially what the companies want from a technical perspective is to help develop curriculums so that when folks who choose to go into what I would call more scientific agriculture, there's a curriculum and there's a springboard for them to come out fully prepared to take jobs in this industry. TCL is obviously an integral part of that, being a local technical college. I will give you just a real quick 10-second history of other conversations we've had. I don't know or how in depth y'all know that right now we are working with the governor to develop essentially the Governor's School for Ag, just like the Governor's School for the Arts and Governor's School for Science and Mathematics. So Governor's School for Agriculture is actually under operation right now. They have students. It's on the old John De La Howe campus in McCormick. We've had conversations with them about creating curriculums and internship programs. And I will say, and this is, I think I can say this publicly, President Clements with Clemson has told us to say this as loudly as we can. From a South Carolina State perspective, from a land-grant university perspective, and from a Clemson University perspective, it is their goal that in the next 3 to 5 years, this campus will be a campus for agriculture, what Greenville and ICAR is for the automotive industry. So I think that there's a heck of a lot of research opportunities. I think there's a lot of opportunities for students, workforce training, and kind of the educational side too.
Very exciting stuff. Andy, you have a question?
Yeah, I do. Clint, what's the total amount of tax dollars that we've committed and over what time frame? And also, when do we see revenue from either salaries or taxes returned back to the state to make that a payback?
So not to be vague or non-descriptive, but I can't share the incentive dollars yet because those conversations are soon to be finalized, and those are still working documents. Hopefully we will have those signed this afternoon. I will say this, the state did put in incentive dollars to make this happen. From a competitiveness standpoint, there are monies being put in for site readiness and environmental impact studies, in mitigation works, and the crux of what the state is offering are by way of job tax credits. And I do think the second part of your question, so the employees should be on the ground, so to speak, I would say late next year. So I think that it's probably less than a year away that you will see kind of an inflow back to the county and the community for income taxes being paid and wages being offered.
All right. Other
Okay,
questions?
a follow-up question. As part of that, when you are able to release it, please let Hannah know those numbers so we can at least review them in one of our meetings. And is anything being done relative to this company to provide anything relative to housing or transportation for workers or anything like that?
So I can't speak to the specifics of transportation. I can say on the housing issue, we have already had conversations with the Alliance, mainly the Alliance, about the potential of the need of building housing around the facility itself, whether that's in Early Branch, whether that's in Hampton, wherever it is. I think that those conversations are not to be vague, but I think that they're definitely part of the conversation in making the puzzle pieces fit together. I will say this, and 1,500, 1,600 jobs is a great thing. Hampton County will, see very large benefits of these employees. It is not going to be really easy to get all these people on day one. That is something that we're currently working through, just to be completely objective. And so that is why we had a call yesterday about already scheduling job fairs and career fairs and employee trade shows, so we can start getting the word out that when these jobs are open, we need them to be filled in an expeditious time frame.